Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight, the Pharmaceutical Association raising concerns over government's plans for marijuana. A mother relives the experience of finding her home vandalized. A story of kindness you have to see. Plus, a song to heal after disaster.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Water and Sewage Corporation Chairman Adrian Gibson hitting back at the Bahamas Utility Services and Allied Workers Union over overtime payments Gibson says were fraudulent. The overtime payments were accrued in the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian on the island of Abaco. According to Gibson, the accounts department raised red flags after it was discovered that a handful of employees assigned to the Abaco restoration exercise had acquired more than 300 hours of overtime for the month of October alone, with some employees taking home over $14,000 and $9,000 in overtime.
All of the overtime, we noticed, was signed off by a particular member of staff who has faced disciplinary action. As it stands, one investigation has been completed and another is wrapping up. WSC will not issue any of these egregious amounts and, given the aforesaid, expects to take the necessary and appropriate action in short course.
According to the chairman, a new industrial agreement is under review by the Ministry of Works and other relevant authorities. In the meantime, he asked for the union and its members to exercise patience. At a press conference yesterday, Boosabool President Dwayne Woods announced that members of the union would engage in a sick-out, which Gibson today called illegal and would result in pay cuts.
If this illegal action is undertaken by staff members, it is expected that the staff members who are absent provide the corporation with a sick note, subject themselves to inspection by the corporation's industrial nurse, and failing the above, WSC would be left with no choice but to deduct the time from staff pay. We want to discourage the union's executives and invite them to refrain from disrupting the day-to-day operations at WSC. We know the threat to disrupt service to our customers, and we call upon them to rethink that.
In other news, a homeowner in Westridge is speaking out after thieves broke into her home and ransacked the place before getting away with valuables. Jared Higgs reports.
Like as soon as I pulled up and I see an open door and I see this, I'm like, oh my gosh, what just happened?
34-year-old Iandra Bryan didn't sleep last night after returning home with her 8-year-old daughter around 8 p.m. and meeting her front door busted open and the entire house ransacked.
And I'm in fear for my life because I don't know if there's somebody in there or, what's happening. And so I'm like, I need to get the police here.
Bryan sat down with Our News on Thursday morning to discuss the ordeal. She didn't wish to show her face on camera and was visibly shaken. The thieves made off with televisions, computers, and other valuables. However, the frightened mother says nothing was worse than seeing her daughter's reaction.
Hearing my daughter crying, she cried for an hour straight. An hour straight she cried. She's like, I want to move.
Bryan later learned that her neighbor, Pastor Cedric Moss, also had an attempted burglary at his home on Wednesday. In that incident, Moss says 3 men attempted to enter his home. However, police were alerted and arrived before the men could get inside. Meanwhile, Bryan says she wants to know who is out there buying stolen goods.
I don't care about the belongings, but where are the belongings? Where are they going? Where's the market for this? Because to me, that's key. They're in a career of burglary. And there's a market, where are they selling these televisions?
The one item she says she will miss, a gift handed down through her family.
My grandmother had given me an heirloom ring. And I'm like, I don't care about, the fancy jewelry or the $10,000 engagement ring or any of that. I care about this heirloom ring that was passed down to me, that was generational, that I was going to pass down to my daughter.
Crime statistics reveal there were 684 cases of housebreaking during 2019. The incident in Bryan's neighborhood only heightens concerns of homeowners in western New Providence.
Because we have a chat group. And they'll post like, oh, there's a car park, at a certain place.
Another woman says she feels safer living in a gated community.
Because it's harder to break in, I've seen beautiful places, but they were like open. I was afraid.
Brian says the next step is to revamp her home security system. As she bemoans the lack of peace on New Providence, she wonders if she even wants to stay where she's living.
Never felt safe in this neighborhood because I've always heard about the break-ins and the burglaries and the home invasions. But this is the first time it really hit home.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
The Bahamas Pharmaceutical Association calling for more consultation with the government on plans for changing marijuana laws in the country. The association's president says while they support the use of cannabis for medicinal purposes, there are huge concerns over the regulation for small amounts for recreational purposes.
So even decriminalizing it in small amounts, we still look at it as a drug.
This after the Marijuana Commission's report was tabled in the House of Assembly, revealing that the body is split on whether to legalize marijuana for recreational use. The Commission does, however, recommend the decriminalization of up to 1 ounce of cannabis for recreational use, something that presents a concern for the association, as it believes even those small amounts should come through the pharmacy.
So even in small amounts, it should still be regulated. We feel, or it should still be, even in small amounts, where you get it from, should still be regulated and controlled. So it should still be dispensed by a pharmacy, even if it is in small amount.
The association is also concerned about the Commission's call for the use of marijuana for medicinal purposes, and that those persons should be allowed to cultivate sufficient plants to ensure they have access to the amount of marijuana needed for their medical condition.
Therefore, importers, cultivators of cannabis needs to ensure that themselves are educated on the different aspects, the different forms, the different side effects, and what they may experience while using cannabis. So even for private use, I would still say there should be some type of regulation to it. There should still be some type of documentation within the regulatory body as to who is cultivating it, even if it is private use.
The Commission's report recommends that tourists who have been prescribed marijuana for medicinal use in their own countries be allowed to obtain marijuana for medical use in the Bahamas. The legalization of the importation of regulated cannabis products to treat ailments was also recommended. The Pharmaceutical Association is comprised of just over 50 pharmacy owners and over 100 pharmacies. McBride said despite their concerns, the association fully supports the use of marijuana for medicinal purposes, but would like more consultation.
There's still much more we feel needs to be discussed, and we are open. The table is always open with the Bahamas Pharmaceutical Association, with the government and the Commission, and moving forward in the legislative side of it.
Chairman of Lucayan Renewal Holdings, Michael Scott, and Bahamas Power and Light Board member Ron Bethel are among 5 attorneys named as Queen's Counsel. Cabinet Office announced in a statement today that the Governor General, acting on the advice of the Prime Minister, appointed Scott, Cedric Parker, Ferran Bethel, Crystal Roll, and John Wilson as QCs. Scott, who also chairs the Bahamas Hotel Corporation, was appointed chairman of the special purpose vehicle formed in 2018 to identify a buyer for the Grand Lucayan Resort. Meanwhile, Ferran Bethel was the only BPL board member to be reappointed to the new board in 2018 after members of the old board were asked to hand in their resignations. Thousands of Bahamians living with a disability are forced to rely on the kindness of others to get by. But for 45-year-old Donald Martin, who leads his blind friend to the bus stop nearly every day, being disabled will not stop him from lending a helping hand. Jasmine Brown has his story.
And they come down the road, they turn around, so I wouldn't fall flat on my face.
Meet Donald Martin, a 45-year-old man who has been confined to a wheelchair all of his life. According to the 2010 census, Martin is one of more than 10,100 disabled people living in the Bahamas. Born with cerebral palsy, Martin says he has had to rely on the kindness of his family and friends his entire life, and it's those acts of kindness that have inspired him to do all he can to help others, despite his own disability. It was one particular act of kindness that prompted our news team to seek him out after Nassau Guardian photojournalist Avia Campbell snapped this awe-inspiring photo showing Martin in his motorized scooter helping his blind friend navigate a busy roadway.
That's my good friend, you know. He'd be by the South House. Sometimes I just go down with him, you know, and help him around, you know, put him on the bus and stuff. Like as you see me usually put him on the bus and stuff, make sure he's straight.
Martin says they became fast friends after meeting at an event for the disabled. Martin, who is unable to work because of his disability, says the friendship is far from one-sided, as they have come to rely on each other.
Me and him got tight a couple of years ago, and then from then, he's helped me out, and he's helped, So we just, be there for one another.
But it's not just kindness that keeps him going. Martin says his motivation also comes from his determination to be independent. He currently lives in his own apartment that sits adjacent to his family home. He says being able to do things on his own has become a mission. He showed us how something as simple as going to bed takes an extra effort.
Come up to the bed like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then
You just do a little dive straight over.
Yeah, do a little dive.
And then you could turn your body, because you said you still have feeling and so forth.
I'm still active, so I still could turn, but
It hasn't been easy for Martin, though it's been hard to tell given the constant grin on his face. Martin says he lost some of his independence 8 months ago when his handicapped scooter stopped working, preventing him from running errands like going to the food store and paying bills.
That right there is the ideal chair for disability, because it could run me anywhere. I used to go to the mall and stuff, but this can't really go,
Despite that fact, he says nothing will slow him down from doing all the good he can. He encouraged others to do the same.
Well, I could say try walk a mile in my shoe.
Now, Martin says what he would like to see most is Bahamians have more compassion for people with disabilities. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
All right, thanks, Jasmine. Still to come, a young man charged in connection with a recent murder in Flamingo Gardens. Plus, a touching video inspires hope following deadly Hurricane Dorian. Stay tuned.
With Trio, you can get everything and more. Get 150% download speed increase than if you got internet alone. An enhanced television experience and 15 phone features, all for, wait, it's still $99? But we boosted the internet speed. I'm just asking. Okay, fine. Just call 601-2200 and tell them that you want Trio, TV, phone, internet for $99. Powered by Rev. You and us together.
One day after the Marijuana Commission's preliminary report was tabled in the House of Assembly, a senior member of the local Rastafarian community is pleading with the Commissioner of Police to instruct police officers to exercise discretion. Berthany McDermott reports.
Now, while the Rastafarian community is praising government for its movement on decriminalizing marijuana, priest Rithman McKinney is calling on government to apologize to the Rastafarian community for the many years of being mistreated.
We observe other jurisdictions where leaders apologize to the Rasta community because they see what the Rasta man have gone through over the years. So they apologize and they provide the Rasta man with land and license also, so they could be a part of the industry going forward.
Among the Marijuana Commission's list of recommendations is legalizing the use of marijuana as a sacrament for Rastafarians and the establishment of a Rastafarian council to register and regulate Rastafarian groups. Though no changes have been made to the laws just yet, McKinney made this plea to the Commissioner of Police.
We are asking the Commissioner of Police to talk to his officers and let them have some kind of discretion at this moment until it officially being set where the Rasta man can grow his sacrament for his medicinal and sacramental rights.
The Commission also recommended the expungement of criminal records for simple possessions of cannabis. Prime Minister Dr. Hugh Minnis publicly threw his support behind the move. McKinney said for too long, members of the Rastafarian community have been arrested and dragged before the courts for possession of small quantities of cannabis.
The Rasta community still being locked up and being getting convicted as we speak, getting charged, because a couple of our members for the last 2 weeks end up getting arrested for small amount of marijuana. And they get in hold in front of the court. One going to court yesterday. I think the next two are supposed to be getting in court sometime today.
The Commission's preliminary report was tabled in the House of Assembly on Wednesday. McKinney says the Rastafarian community is grateful for the steps being taken.
I know a person who get locked up with a small amount, and they record today still is not clean. They still can't travel.
According to McKinney, decriminalizing marijuana will also help to decrease crime in the Bahamas. Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
25-year-old Ricardo Stubbs was arraigned in the magistrate's court in connection with a recent murder. Georgia Bain reports.
A 25-year-old was brought before the magistrate's court to be charged with murder in connection with the January shooting death of Shaquille Embrister. According to police reports, shortly before 9 p.m., two armed men forced their way into a home on Higher Drive, Flamingo Gardens, opened fire on a male occupant inside the home, wounding him before getting into a silver vehicle and speeding away. The victim was pronounced dead on the scene. Stubbs, also known as Cardo and Yellow, was not represented by an attorney and was not required to enter a plea to the charge due to the nature of the offense. The Cowpen Road resident was remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections and returns to court on April 29th for the presentation of a voluntary bill of indictment. After being remanded, Stubbs told Pratt that police officers did not listen to his alibi, even though he had evidence to prove that he was not in the location where the murder happened. He also told the chief magistrate that this is not the first murder that police have tried to charge him with. Reporting for Our News, I'm Giorgio Bain.
All right, thanks, Giorgio. Still to come, a new video seeks to spread hope and love in the wake of tragedy. Stay tuned.
With Trio, you can get everything and more. Get 150% download speed increase than if you got internet alone, an enhanced television experience, and 15 phone features, all for, wait, it's still $99? But we boosted the internet speed. I'm just asking. Okay, fine. Just call 601-2200 and tell them that you want Trio, TV, phone, internet for $99. Powered by Rev. You and us together.
You're watching Our News. Welcome back. It's been 5 months since Hurricane Dorian wreaked havoc on Grand Bahama and Abaco, changing the lives of thousands of residents. Well, a new song featuring dozens of Bahamian artists is looking to spread a bit of hope and light in the wake of that disaster. With a goal of bringing more awareness to climate change and its effects on countries like the Bahamas, the One World song brought together 24 Bahamian vocalists and a 30-piece symphony orchestra.
And I see that someone's giving while someone's giving up.
The producer and I were talking and decided, let's use our joint gifts. He's an amazing composer, producer, and he's done a similar type project in the past. So we knew that he could easily pull this off and really do a lot to help the country and elevate our artists too.
Recording artists like Emily Williams, Willis, Mandisa, and Patrice Morel brought the best from different genres, joining forces for a rally call of hope and unity across the globe in the face of the global climate crisis.
He selected them based off their vocal textures, their tones, and he just was watching. He kept a pulse in the music industry over here and just was like, you know what, I have to have this person, I have to have that person.
I can feel the love.
Symphony orchestras in Toronto, a process that our producer is very familiar with and very familiar with the players there. So he knew what kind of standard and of instrumental that he wanted as a score. So it was very important to the quality to get some global success, which is our aim, our end goal.
The song's lyrics were written by Bahamian Grammy-nominated writer Anwar McDonald. The video was released last night. The visual featuring heartwarming moments of loved ones being reunited after Hurricane Dorian, and the faces of Bahamian children pleading for the world to pay attention.
We're going to be available on all the major music platforms by the end of today. So check us out, support us, and we just hope to bring you hope and inspiration from the song.
We are one world.